moving, but your reality or your isness is not solid. But I don't understand that part. Like,
I don't know I don't know how I say how or when you heard me say it. I'm always changing the way I speak. But there is
yeah.
everything, and everything is in movement.
Hmm.
Everything is always moving from one thing to another. There's never a solid thing. There's always movement happening. And then there's um, this emptiness or stillness that's happening simultaneously, this non moving element. It's not that you're more the non moving element, you're the movement and the non movement simultaneously. But that's experiential, it's not something we can intellectually talk about. There's an element that's never moved, that's always been the same, that always is, and it's everything that's moving at the same time. Everything is in that stillness, everything's in that emptiness.
Great. Yeah. Okay. I kind of see what you mean now.
It's really hard
Yeah.
intellectually though, because intellect and thoughts are moving, so communicating about it is almost impossible. You can kind of
Hmm.
point to it, but it's not even a feeling, because a feeling's moving. It's that which you can never look at, never see. It's everything and it's nothing, and it's always been there.
Right. Hey, Lisa, what were you? Thanks. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. Lisa, what were your relationships like before you had this understanding? Like before knew that you weren't your,
Before the change.
your, yeah. Like, what were your relationships with like your mother and like? I find that I can hardly have relationships with them. It's like I feel like I'm breaking down, kind of thing.
Yeah, it just comes to a response in the moment more than your idea of a relationship with them. But pretty much the same, I think, with like the parents. It's easier, most probably. But you can never tell. Like I say this stuff, and experience is always moving. I don't know who I am, so even to look at me, I look at the character of Lisa, and I'm just really making it up when I say it's pretty much the same. Everything's moving. It's so impossible to pin anything. I can say in one way it seems like they're pretty much the same. Relationships with the lover seems to have changed, but at the same time, I'll say it now, and then anything I say could be potentially contradicted in the next moment. You never know what the Lisa character will do.
Yeah.
It it's everything's changing continuously. You can never find a place to rest. But maybe your question's coming more from um, a not knowing how to relate to your parents or something, or not knowing what to do with them. So
Yeah, I just find that there's these, dynamics or, old sort of, well, just, people expect you to be there for them. And, and sometimes you just, I don't know, I don't even, it's like this whole idea of non-duality of like, it's just a dream, and I think screws up my story in this life sort of thing.
yeah,
And so it's like I've lost a little perspective on, my relationships with people and, what my role in it is or stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, it does become really confusing
Yeah.
because because as the person's waking up, it's beginning to in the way it takes on new belief systems to question the old belief systems, and
Right.
then it becomes a confusing relationship between people with the old belief systems. But it
Yeah.
always comes back to what is to this moment, and always the freedom always comes back to what's actually happening, not what you think should happen or what you think the character should do. But I'm not
Right.
denying that it doesn't come confusing for that person, because
Mm-hmm.
that person's had a reference point before, and then more and more it gets less reference points, or it questions those reference points. Relationships
Okay.
do become bizarre.
Yeah. One more question. Hey, when you're sort of sitting there and you're sort of trying to, you know that you're trying to feel the energy in the room, like not the energy, but you know that you're bigger than your little ego, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and so when you're trying to get that, when you're sitting here, and say something happens where someone's hurt my feelings, say I get a phone call, and then like I start to cry or whatever. So that little self of me that feels this so intensely, if you figure it out and try to look at it, you can see that it's not really who I am.
Yeah. But then you have to question, who is the person that can see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think it's more being, the freedom's more found in being the character 100% than trying to remove yourself from the character in any way.
Oh.
Like, the one that wants to remove itself from the character when it's crying and wants to realize that it's the whole room and that it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think that is?
Oh God.
It's something else that's trying to stay in time and trying to stay in being something with a reference point. I sometimes think that the character becomes more and more extreme.
Yeah, I know. I
don't really know though. I always left a mystery to what's happening. But who's trying to get out of crying and the pain of crying? The experience is the crying. The experience is the upset at the friend. That's the experience. And this is endless experience. This is endless, this. And the person's always trying to get somewhere, even if it's liberated. And there's absolutely nowhere to get but what's happening. So if there's the experience of intense pain at the phone call, at the sound of the other person's voice, then that's what's happening. Trying to make yourself more removed from it's not going to help. It will just make it cold in a way, or not feeling, but you won't get to anything from doing that.
I'm just trying to imagine, like you were saying that you know that you are this room, and your body or your personality.
It's the opposite to what you think. It's not that I know it intellectually. Intellectually, that can come out and that can be thought about, but thoughts come and go, so that can't be it. So intellectually, I can say I am the room or I am everything, but that's a thought after the event. I always think it's the opposite way round, and it's not that you are the room. It's the person that keeps imagining itself as something removed from the room begins to crumble, and then there's just everything left. So it's the opposite. So it's like it's going more and more into the experience, which is kind of weird. It's not moving further and further away from the experience. It's going more and more into the experience. The experience isn't like you think it is, though. So it's not. It's not like you would imagine me saying that.
Yeah.
But as you go more and more into the experience, it becomes so obvious, is empty. But that's not something that you can do, and that's not a numbness of feeling. It's like the emptiness is in everything that's happening. What you look for is only ever in everything that's happening. So it's the sound of the person's voice, it's the immense pain that's felt, it's the crying, it's the tears, it's the thoughts of hatred or sadness about the other person. It's always what's happening. It's the bum on the seat as that's happening. It's the light in the room. And the person comes in and judges the character and says, I shouldn't be like this. That's not what the experience should be. If I was enlightened or if I was like this, then it wouldn't be like that. That's the experience. And if that's the experience, who knows why that has to happen? Who's judging it? But the freedom isn't in getting out of the experience. The freedom is the dying into the experience, or the dissolving into the experience. But that's not an activity.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to
get out of things.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can search the whole world to try and get out of what is, and have you ever succeeded? It's impossible.
No, I think I'm just trying to get a bigger grasp on it, or a more universal look at it, I think. Or not, I'm trying to look at it, but it's hard to put into words.
When you're crying, you're trying to look at it from a more universal. What do you mean by that?
Well, no, how you say that, you are you are this energy, and you kind of watch your personality. You watch Lisa doing, not watch, but Lisa's doing this and Lisa's doing that.
Yeah.
But that's not you.
Well, but that's one side. But the other side is that is me.
Mm-hmm.
But she just doesn't. Lisa just doesn't finish at the edge of her body or the edge of her actions. In another way, everything that appears is you. In one way, everything that appears isn't you, because why you have to say it's not you is because the separate self has associated itself with being a body, with being a thought, with being an action. So then you say it's not you, that's not you, that's not you, that's not you. But then what's left is everything, and this body arises in everything. The Lisa character is me, but as much as everything else that's me.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty.
Thanks, Kelly. Nice to
I'll work
speak
on
to
that. Okay, thanks a lot, Lisa.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.